our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story for today. A recent poll by the Council on American-Islamic Relations shows a significant shift in Muslim American voter preferences. More than 1,000 Muslim voters have been surveyed. The majority of Muslim voters are split between third-party candidate Jill Stein and Vice President Kamala Harris. 29% of voters are leaning towards Stein. The same percentage favors Harris. The survey highlights a 40% drop in support for Democrats from the 2020 elections. Experts attribute it to the discontent over U.S. policy on Palestine. Only 26% plan to back the Democratic Party, while 60% are leaning towards third-party or independent candidates. The Biden administration's stance on the Gaza war is a major factor in this shift. Council on American-Islamic Relations reports there are more than 2.5 million registered Muslim voters in the United States.
If Kamala wants my vote, I want her to take a hard stance against these forever wars. I want her to take a hard stance against giving Israel any more money, especially for military purposes. I want her to take a strong stance in supporting the Palestinian plight and in supporting their right to exist.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris says she would not alter the Biden administration's policies on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Gaza war. Harris's comments come during an interview with CNN. This is her first interview as this year's Democratic presidential nominee. She, however, stresses the need to secure a ceasefire and a hostage release deal. Layla Al-Abid and Abbas Al-Awi say Harris must align with the American majority that opposes sending weapons to Israel's assault on Gaza. Al-Abid and Al-Awi are co-founders of Uncommitted National Movement. The movement is a protest campaign aimed to push the U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to secure a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Al-Abid and Al-Awi say the vice president's statements are morally indefensible and politically short-sighted. Palestinian Health Ministry reports at least 23 Palestinians have been killed since Friday dawn due to a series of devastating Israeli airstrikes across Gaza City. The dead include women and children. An Israeli airstrike has struck a humanitarian aid convoy carrying medical supplies and fuel for an Emirati-run hospital in Rafah. The Israeli military has defended the strike, claims it targeted armed assailants allegedly trying to hijack the convoy. The convoy was organized by the U.S. charity Mena. In southern Gaza, Israeli forces have withdrawn from eastern Khan Yunis after a 22-day operation, leaving extensive destruction. Palestinian Civil Defense reports at least 9 bodies recovered from the area. The Israeli military claims to have eliminated more than 250 fighters and destroyed significant infrastructure. Palestinian officials say the Israeli army has destroyed water lines supplying city areas. In the West Bank, Jenin has been struck by Israeli forces for the 3rd consecutive day in a fierce assault. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has suspended its services in several camps in the occupied West Bank due to continuous Israeli attacks. Palestinian Health Ministry reports more than 650 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank since the start of the war. At least 40,602 people have been killed and 93,855 wounded in Israel's war on Gaza. Some experts in the British medical journal The Lancet have, however, estimate Palestinian deaths could be around 186,000 due to Israeli actions. Israel faces accusations of genocide at the International Court of Justice, which has ordered a halt to military operations. Israel has consented to limited humanitarian pauses in its Gaza operations to facilitate a crucial polio vaccination drive. The World Health Organization has announced this campaign. It is set to start on Sunday and will immunize 640,000 children under the age of 10. The effort was necessitated by a confirmed polio case in a 10-month-old. It will begin in central Gaza and proceed to other regions. 1.26 million doses are in Gaza and an additional 400,000 en route. The World Health Organization representative Rick Pieperkorn says there is a critical need for pauses in fighting to ensure the campaign's success. He says in order to halt the outbreak, at least 90% of the vaccinations should be administered. Palestinian Health Minister Majid Abu Ramadan says vaccination schedules and locations will be communicated to residents. Details of torture endured by Palestinian paramedic Walid Khalili have emerged while in Israeli detention. Khalili is 36 years old. He was detained after witnessing the execution of 4 men by Israeli soldiers in Gaza City. Blindfolded and beaten, Khalili was subjected to severe abuse. He was threatened with gasoline and electric shocks at the Stein prison. The torture continued in Al-Naqab prison, where he was threatened with rape and witnessed another detainee suffering brutal assault. After over a month of torment, Khalili was released without charge. On his release, he was weighing significantly less than when he was arrested. Last month, 10 Israeli soldiers were detained for sexually assaulting a detainee from Gaza's Stein prison. Later, 5 of them were released. Senator Bernie Sanders is calling for a congressional probe into alleged war profiteering by major U.S. defense contractors. Sanders condemns Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and RTX for pocketing $255 billion in taxpayer funds since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Sanders accuses these firms of fleecing American taxpayers and harming Ukrainians by inflating weapon costs and prioritizing profits over aid. Despite his firm support for Ukraine's defense, Sanders criticizes the skyrocketing prices of military equipment and the consolidation of defense contractors. He said it has led to exorbitant costs and reduced support for Ukraine. He asked Congress to investigate these companies' greed and ensure taxpayer money serves its intended purpose. Police beat up 300,000 Americans annually. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. A new report by Mapping Police Violence shows U.S. police use force on about 300,000 people each year. Around 100,000 injuries occurred during these encounters. The organization's new database covers incidents from 2017 to 2022. It shows police force has remained steady or even increased since the George Floyd protests. Police used stun guns and chemical sprays during the use of force. The report says a significant portion of those subjected to force are unarmed. Black civilians are disproportionately affected. Police departments with rising budgets and higher arrest rates for minor offenses have increased their use of force in recent years. Yale University has opened its new Middle Eastern and North African cultural suite. Lina Safi has been appointed as its second Muslim chaplain. Safi began her role on August 1st. She brings a wealth of experience from various Muslim community organizations. The suite was inaugurated this past Tuesday. It offers a dedicated space for students to connect and support each other. The move comes after years of student activism and a commitment made by former President Peter Salovey last December. The initiative reflects Yale's ongoing efforts to recognize and support its diverse student body. A federal court has halted California's controversial no-beard policy for peace officers. The policy was enforced by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. It failed to accommodate officers who seek to maintain facial hair for religious or cultural reasons. This legal action follows a lawsuit on behalf of Mubashir Ali. Ali endured significant spiritual distress by shaving off his beard for nearly 18 months. The suit was supported by the Council of American Islamic Relations and the American Civil Liberties Union. Layli Shirani of Council of American Islamic Relations says respecting religious beliefs is a fundamental right. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice have been investigating and supporting this case. The court's temporary suspension means affected officers can either continue working or take paid leave while a final decision is pending. A Republican activist is suing Americans for Prosperity over allegations of racial discrimination and bribery. The group is backed by billionaire Charles Koch. Carl Baxter is a Black Trump supporter from Fort Myers, Florida. Baxter is also the president of the Republican Club of North and East Fort Myers. He claims during a canvassing operation, a staffer called him a slave in a derogatory manner. The staffer allegedly made several inappropriate comments about his work, referencing slavery sarcastically. Baxter accuses an Americans for Prosperity member of attempting to bribe him with $500 to provide damaging information on a city council member. He says he refused to provide the information. The controversy has led to backlash, with some local Republicans distancing themselves from the group. The group has yet to comment on the allegations. The European Union has voiced grave concern over Burkina Faso's worsening security crisis. The comments come following a deadly terrorist attack. The assault occurred in Barcelona over the weekend. Nearly 200 people have died. 300 have been injured. Local media suspect the attack was carried out by Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, an ISIS affiliate. The EU strongly condemns the violence and is calling for intensified efforts to halt the escalating conflict. Mali's military leader Assimi Goïta has reaffirmed the commitment of the Confederation of Sahel States to combat regional terrorism. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country in West Africa. The country is controlled by a military junta. It has been grappling with an insurgency linked to ISIS that has displaced thousands and heightened regional instability. The death toll from devastating floods in eastern and southeastern Bangladesh has risen to 52. 21 of these bodies were discovered yesterday. The floods began on August 21st. They have affected 5.4 million people across 11 districts. 1.2 million families have been stranded. As waters recede, tens of thousands have been displaced, and extensive damage has been reported to farmland and fish enclosures. The United Kingdom has announced an additional €450,000 in humanitarian aid for the displaced civilians. The transitional government, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, continues its rescue efforts and has proposed a joint flood control committee with India. Officials in Bangladesh allege the floods came because of India releasing water from dams without notifying them. Veteran Indian Muslim scholar A.G. Noorani has died at 94 at his home in Mumbai. Noorani was a leading authority on Kashmir and India-Pakistan affairs. Noorani was born on September 16, 1930. He is celebrated for his deep legal knowledge and dedication to justice. He also is believed to have been instrumental in shaping the Kashmir formula proposed by Pakistan's late Prime Minister Pervez Musharraf. His extensive body of work includes influential books such as The Kashmir Question and A Constitutional History of Jammu and Kashmir. Noorani's passing signifies the end of an era in Indian intellectual circles. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you news that you can trust. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on what you thought of today's coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.